Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Melyssa and today I'm doing a review of the Melt Cosmetics Amor Eterno palettes. So if you're looking forward to that, stick around. Before we get started today, I want to remind you to subscribe down below and hit that bell so you know anytime I post a new video. So first thing I want to do talking about these palettes is talk about the packaging. If any of you know me, then you know that I am a total sucker for good packaging. The really cool thing about these is that each side is half of a skull, and when you put them together, they're actually magnetic. So when you put the two sides together, they're magnetic. I mean, it's not strong enough to hold them. No, it kind of releases. But when you put it together, you make an entire skull. And it has this 3D feeling of the print here. And the outside coloring really reflects like what colors are inside of the palette. So the Vita palette has a lot of these like greens, some neutrals, and then moving into oranges and reds. And it has a lot more of like a summery spring feel to it. And the Muerte palette has more of like these darker colors. So this has more of like a winter palette look. It has a lot of these like darker reds going into blues and then lighter blues and into like kind of silveries right here. And on camera, they're looking not quite as vibrant as they actually are in person. So let's see what the swatches look like. The shimmers, they were very impressive because they stay on very well and they're very pigmented. The matte shadows, they weren't super powdery. They had really good color payoff. If I had any fallout, I was able to just blow it away with a little puff of air and it didn't leave anything behind. The dark mattes, those seem to go on a little bit more difficult, but you just keep packing on more color and blending it out, and it does build up. Now that we're done with the swatches, I'm going to jump into the look. This eye I'm going to do on my own off camera, and then I'll hop back on and show you how I did it. Here's the look I'm going for today. It's a very plum, dark, smoky eye, and it goes perfectly with my dress for today. So let's get started on this eye. Starting off, I went in with a transition color, which is this one right here, and I believe it's pronounced Atole. If I mispronounce these names, please forgive me. Feel free to correct me in the comments. I'm not afraid of that. But dipping in with a large fluffy brush, just pick up a little bit of that, and I'm running it through my crease here just to put down a little bit of a transition shade. I am bringing it up a little bit higher because my crease needs to be higher or else you won't see any of my eyeshadow and it'll all just be upper lid. So I'm bringing it all the way up here, and I'm also winging it out. So I'm pulling it past the corner of my eye, coming out here to the corner, and then coming back in this way. So when I say winging out, I'm traveling along this line and then coming back to the inner corner or outer corner right here. I'm just taking that color and putting it down. It's a big fluffy brush, so don't worry if it doesn't stay exactly where you're placing it. You're really just getting a soft wash of color on your skin. The thing about these palettes is that they are so incredibly versatile. There's so many different things you can do with these color stories. There's bright colors, there's dark colors, there's colors that you can mix, there's different shimmery colors that you can add to the inside, which is what I did over here. And so I really am in love with these palettes. They are the first ones that I have used from Melt Cosmetics. There was a couple others that I was really intrigued by. I really like the Gemini Palette and the Smoke Sessions palettes because, you know, your girl loves green, but I just could never pull the trigger on them and actually buy them. But as soon as this collection came out, I was like, I gotta have it. I gotta have both palettes. I gotta have all the liners. I almost bought the highlighter, even though I don't need another highlighter unless it's pink. I do need a pink highlighter. And I almost got all 3 of the liquid lipsticks, which again I don't need because they're very vibrant, and I just don't wear very vibrant lipstick very often unless it's a bright red because I love red. But honestly, I'm so glad I made this decision. So moving on to the darker colors, I'm going to use this brush here. So this is a smaller, more dense brush. This is specifically the Moda Brush BMX 420 Detail Brush. The reason why I personally am using this is because I have a smaller eye shape. You could use something a little bit bigger and get a similar result if you don't have a small eye shape. Like this one's a little bit bigger than this, but I have teeny tiny little eyes. So we're going to use the small brush. So I'm dipping into, back over to the Muerte palette. I'm using this one here, Sangre, and it is like the medium of the 3 reds here. So I'm starting off with this one here and picking that up on my brush. I'm drawing the shape that I want. So I'm starting here on the inner corner. I'm going from the inner corner of my eye. I'm going up, all the way up. And you see how I have my eyebrow lifted now? Now I'm dropping it down so I can see exactly where that shadow is going to land. And I'm dipping back in to pick up more pigment. And I'm just drawing the shape of that wing that I'm creating. So essentially, if you had non-hooded eyes, you had larger eyes, you wouldn't necessarily have to draw that in. You just put it in your crease. But for me, I have to make a new crease, and it's very challenging. And I'm learning new things every single day on how to work with this eye shape. But I'm going in here, and then when I get to more of like the arch here, I swing down and then flick out. So you can kind of see that shape there. That's kind of what I'm going for. It flicked up a little bit more than I'd like it to, so I'm going to fill in a little bit of that space. Just like that. And then I'm starting from here, and I'm going back down to the outer corner. You can see when I pull my eye up, it looks pretty ridiculous. But this is one of those looks that you have to believe in it and can keep going, and you can get it to a point where you really like it in the end. So again, just filling in that space there. I'm trying not to go too far out. Like if this is the center of where I want my line to be, because I'm still going to blend outward. So a lot of this is going to pull out farther. So you can kind of see like this is going out to here, but this blends further than my eyebrow. That's because this needs to blend out more. So I don't want to go all the way out with my initial shadow putting down because I still have to blend. And when I blend, it'll go out even further. So I just want to be really careful with that. And now that I have the shape that I would like, I'm using a slightly fluffy, flatter brush here. You can kind of see how that's a little bit flatter. It's not as round. This is the Moda BMX 466 shade brush. And I'm going in with the same exact color, Sangre, picking up a bit of that, and I'm filling in that outline that I just made. So now that I have that shape filled in, I'm going to take a fluffier brush and I'm going to blend out the edges. And I'm not afraid to pull it past where I have the line because I want to continuously like pull that line out. I have to say, I think blending is probably my favorite thing about makeup, because when you first put on the shadows, it looks a little chunky and a little like kindergarten-y. But once I start actually blending in, I'm just taking off a bit of that shadow I picked up. Once I start going in and actually blending it, that's when things start to like really come together. Like this line up here, I'm not completely satisfied with it, but as I blend it out, I like it a little bit more. Then when I come to the inner corner, I'm really making sure that this gets blended out here. I don't want any harsh lines. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna go in next with the same semi-flat brush as before, the Moda BMX 466 shade brush. And then I'm going in with the slightly darker red Villorio. And taking it only to the outside corner. So right over top of that other red that we have down already, I'm just packing on that darker shade right on the outside part of my eye. And then I'm bringing it up just a little bit in that winged shape again. But I'm not going outside of the shading. I'm keeping everything in the lines, as you will. I'm just darkening up that outside corner. Alright, I'm happy with that. So we're going to go in with this flat little brush here. And this is something I would use for concealer, for cutting a crease, but it's just a flat paddle brush and it's kind of small so I can fit it on my eye again. And I'm going in with Calaca. It's this nice bright champagne right here. And I'm picking up quite a bit of that on my brush here. And then I'm putting that on the inner corner of my eye. I'm just tapping it on initially because this one will fall off more easily because of how it's formulated. I'm just tapping that into my inner corner and slowly bringing it out onto the lid here. Now that's just kind of packed on there. It's not blended in or anything. I'm going in with my fluffy blending brush again, the one that I started off everything with, and I'm just blending out the edges really lightly because this particular shadow will move very quickly and it looks beautiful as a light wash. And that's all I'm trying to do is blend out those edges a little bit and get more of a light wash of that champagne starry color onto the middle to inner corner of my lid. When I was making this look and I started putting this on, I was like, oh my gosh, it looks kind of like a starry night. You know, the sky was like purple. But it looks so pretty. Okay, now that's a lot more blended out, you can see that it's not nearly as impactful as this eye. I'm going in and picking up more on my paddle brush, and I'm tapping more into that inner corner. And it's just a back and forth of tapping it on, tapping it off, tapping it on, tapping it off, just to get the pigmentation that I'm looking for out of this shade. I'm going to pick up a little bit more and go directly into the inner corner for that inner corner highlight. And I'm just brushing it around on that skin on the inner corner right there and pulling it down on my lower lash line just to get that little bit of shimmer. And you can see that really starts to brighten up that inner corner there. Final thing with this shade, just on the very tip of my brush, I'm taking just a little bit, and I'm going up here on my brow bone, right underneath the arch, and I'm tapping that in lightly, just to highlight that part of my eye. And again, it's just playing with highlights and shadows to get a nice, appealing shape to your eye. That's the whole point of why they're called shadows, is because you're playing with pulling things forward and pushing things back. It's really interesting when you think about it. So now that I'm done with the upper lid, I'm going in on the bottom lid. First, I'm starting off with a angled liner brush. This one happens to have a spoolie on the back, but I'm not using that. I'm just using the angled liner brush, and it has a pretty sharp straight line to it. So I'm dipping into the sangre color again, which is this one here. And I'm just picking up a little bit of that. Starting from the outer corner, I'm stamping it right at the roots of my bottom lashes. And I'm not dragging too much, I'm just stamping it down. I'm also not going to go all the way to the inner corner. I'm going to go about half to 2/3 of the way. I always find that adding the lower lash line to the look, especially when you're doing a winged out look like this, just fully finishes the look. You can already tell from here, if I didn't add all that blending on this side, or if I didn't add it on this side that I have on this side, it just kind of looks unfinished in my opinion. I'm going in with a smaller pointy-ish brush. This here is just a round brush, but it's pretty small. And I'm going in with the sangre color again, just a little bit on there. And I'm starting at the outer corner and I'm doing small little brush strokes. Just kind of blending out that color that we just put down with the angled liner brush. And this is starting off the blending part of it. Alright, so now that I have that a little bit more blended out, I'm going in with Villorio, which is that darker red. This one, well, you can't see that. This one right here, just taking a little bit of that and starting from the outer corner, a lot closer to the lower lash line. Just putting on a little bit more of that to darken it. I'm also going to the outer corner here, right where both of my lids meet, and filling in that space with a little bit more of that color. And now that I have that there, I am pulling this up to straighten out that line that we have. So the outer corner here of my shadow, I'm pulling down here, so it makes a lot more sense. It's very connected. All right, now that I feel comfortable with that, I'm going in with a fluffier, flat-ish brush. You can see it's a bit fluffy there, but it's not round, it's more flat. And I'm making sure that I don't have any additional pigment on there. And I'm just blending out that outer line right here underneath. I'm just going along trying to blend that out a bit more and make it look more natural. And at any point, if you feel like you've blended too much away, which I feel like I might have done a little bit right here underneath, I'm going to go in with that liner brush again, picking up more shadow, and just putting it back in. Okay, we're just about done with this. The next thing that we're doing is liner. And this liner I have is Joyride from ColourPop. It's a nice burgundy. It has more of that red color to it. So it doesn't blend in so much with the plum, but it has this nice red. And it still goes with the color story. So to use this kind of gel liner or cream liner, I'm using an angled liner brush. So you can buy it like this, or you can buy a pointed brush, such as this one here, and you can actually bend it yourself. You just get a pair of needle nose pliers and clamp it here and then bend. Be aware that it might not work out, but hey, it's a good way to do it on the cheap if you don't want to buy another brush. Okay, so I'm just dipping in and picking up a little bit of that right on the edge, and I'm running it along the upper lash line. I usually start in the middle, no particular reason why, but just making a very thin line of liner right there. I find that adding this in just added a little bit more color to it. This look has a lot of purples and plum colors, and I didn't feel like black was going to be a really good choice for this look. I always struggle with trying to make myself wear different colored liners. Are any of you like that too? Do you always just go for the black liner or brown liner? Or are you always reaching for the colored liners? I feel like I can just do so much for a look. But I have to really feel comfortable with it. I don't know, I just need to jump out there and do something different with my life. Okay, so with this liner also, I did not pull it completely down into the corner of my eye. I left some space there because I don't want it to get into the champagne color. I want it to still stay very bright in that inner corner. But I am going to take this on the waterline of my lower lash line. And it's really scary to do this, but it looks amazing. So I just slightly pull my eye down with my finger, and I run it along the waterline right there, from my outer corner to where I finished with my eyeshadow on the bottom. So not going into the champagne color, just going along where we had the plum colors. I saw someone do a blue eye look, and then they did a bright red liner just right there on the waterline, and I loved it. So I really want to try that sometime soon. Let me know if you want to see that in a tutorial or not. There we go! Shadow and liner is done, and next I'll do my mascara and my false lashes off camera, and I'll be right back to give you my final thoughts on this look. Here's the final look from the Melt Cosmetics Amor Eterno collection. I finished off this look with a pair of pure lashes in the style Diva. And my lipstick today is by ColourPop. It is the Luxe Give Me Some Lip in the color Virgo Moon. This is the look I came up with from these palettes. Like I said, there's so many different things you can do with these. I absolutely love how the packaging comes together like this, as you can tell because I've used it in the video a few times. But it's such a cool idea to have these done together. Thank you guys so much for joining me and for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, hit that bell button, leave me a comment down below about anything. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!